Happy Halloween. I am as confused as the rest of those watching on YouTube right now. As you can see, I got in the spirit by wearing a sweater, but I feel like I'm about to be like severely upstaged because the screen is blank. On Christine's side, it's been blank since we started our recording session, and I've been hearing the craziest fucking sounds coming through her microphone. I think she's just wrapped up in a big cellophane bow, and
that was M's guess, yeah.
And
Eva guessed that I was Mr. Cellophane. I was like, I guess
sound like it.
enough.
Yeah, it sounds like either you're dressed as Scotch tape or you used a lot of it. It's one of the two. So, with that, here, welcome to the stage, Christine.
Thank you. Let me turn this on real quick. Okay.
Oh my God. You're Gef the Mongoose.
I am not a spirit. I am a little extra clever mongoose.
You?
Hello. Here's my tail. Wait, where's my tail? Uh-oh. I lost it.
Oh my, well,
oh no.
That sounds like something the eighth wonder of the world would do. What are you doing? Why do you have, it was ring pops. That's what you were opening
It was
up.
ring pops.
Why ring pops? What's the reference?
I don't know. He's just like, he's always saying like how extra he is and how he's like the next best great thing. So I bought a bunch of ring pops to wear on my hands and a gold crown. And oh, there's my tail.
Christine,
there it is.
I gotta be honest. Your eighth wonder of the world side. What's on the other side of that? I gotta know. It's a cupcake, isn't it? Oh, best day ever, hungry caterpillar. I see. Okay, recycle. Okay, reuse.
Reuse, recycle.
Eighth wonder of the world. I feel so bad I didn't dress up. I was trying to.
No, this was a development that occurred within the last hour or so,
and that feels right. Your brain just went. You know what I should do? Really fucking.
You know it would be fun.
Shift the earth as it moves beneath me.
I was on the way to pick Leona up, and I stopped at Target. And what I'm mad about myself about is that I wore a fox costume 2 years ago when we did our little Halloween.
Yeah.
And I must have donated it. I tore my whole house apart. This is why I don't get rid of things. I was like, oh, that would be perfect. So then I go to Target and I'm like, I'll just buy the same one and hope I find the other one and return it. They don't sell it anymore. So I had to buy an Eevee Pokemon costume.
I was going to say, those ears are giving Pokemon a little bit.
I shrunk them down a bit. They were much bigger.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Are you an artiste?
Yeah, I am. So I can, have you not met me? I'm Gef the Mongoose. I'm everything you think I am and more.
She said it, not me. Also, I really actually love the ring pop situation because it's...
Thank you.
That feel, I mean, I think we said in the episode itself that he really is giving Gemini energy and he's got the dramatic flair. So
exactly. That's exactly what I was going for.
He that would be very vain bedazzled in some way, you know?
Yeah. I was going to buy also some chains because he also says, I looked up a bunch of quotes. He also says, I am a ghost in the form of a weasel and I shall haunt you with weird noises and clanking chains. And so I did the weird noises already with my, cellophane. The chains would have been a good addition. And then I'm going to say one more here. I know who I am, but I shan't tell you. I am a freak. I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone, or a pillar of salt. I'll split the atom. I am the fifth dimension. I am the eighth wonder of the world. And that's me.
I mean, I couldn't be more proud to know you and also terrified.
Aww.
As you've made my lights freak out over here. I don't know what's going on.
That's the goal. The day you did Gef the Mongoose changed my life, and I realized just how our souls were intertwined. Not yours and mine, but Jeff's and mine. And so, it just felt right.
Thank you. Well,
even though I look like Eevee from Pokemon, but
no,
okay.
the glasses and the ring pops, and also couldn't be more Christine of you to now just like have 10 sticky fingers for the rest of the day.
I have so sticky. It's horrible. And I keep eating them for some reason.
It's not just one ring pop. It is your whole hand. You look like an Italian mob boss. You kiss my ring.
That's exactly what I was going for. Thank you.
And your crown is giving where the wild things are.
Yeah, I had to buy a 5-pack of these, so I have to reuse them for something.
You want to loop it over
This
your
is
ear?
I
Maybe?
guess so. That's a good idea.
Oh my god.
There we go.
You don't look any
Anyway.
worse, I'll tell you that, but
Anyway, I'm sorry for all the calamity, but here I am.
Please stand by. We have to step away and go get wine. Answer the door.
sorry everyone. We had some technical difficulties where Gef the Mongoose took over the sound waves and we hopefully Christine sounds a little crisper now.
Jim, I have a goddamn cough. I have a hell of a cold. You'll have to get me something.
What? Wow, you're really talking like Gef the Mongoose. You just saying things.
He's damned well not going to get to know my inferior complex.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm trying to find things that are like will be naturally fit in, but it's not really working. Here we go. This is what I have to tell you. If you're kind to me, I will bring you good luck. If you are not kind, I shall kill all your poultry.
Yeah, that sounds like something Christine would say. Except by kill, it would be something more humane, but still equally threatening. So.
I will steal them away and keep them in my bedroom.
You know what the threat would be? I'll love them forever and they'll never leave your world. Christine, do you have a reason why you drink this Halloween?
You're looking. Stop looking. Turn your head, you bastard. I cannot stand your eyes. That's why I drink. I'm like getting into the spirit of Gef. Thank you.
That one worked.
I
Where are we going?
Oh. I'm taking this thing off. I'm sorry. Okay. It's really itchy.
I was gonna say there are those shoulders I apparently love so much.
Okay, listen. I got hit on 2 times yesterday wearing this. Not even hit on, but like just creepily catcalled by old men wearing this tank top, and I'm like, okay, so maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's a thing that I didn't know about.
There's a magical ingredient that shirt is providing you. I don't know what it is.
It's literally Spanx brand tank top. So I don't know if that's it. But anyway, anyhow, I'm sorry. Well, I drink. I've done enough talking today. Why do you drink them?
Oh my god. I drink. Why do I drink?
I was gonna ask you a question, but. If you want to tell a reason why you drink first, that works too.
Okay, sure. I drink because I'm a little stressed out. Allison is getting 2 birthdays this year.
What?
And by the time this comes out, I guess it's already happened because her birthday is
10/20
earlier in October. And so last year. I don't remember what happened at this point, but she didn't get a birthday. We kept pushing it off, and I kept saying like, "Oh, I'll do it later." And then there was this one thing I really wanted to take her to, but they kept pushing it. I think there was like some like local drama about this like event not coming back, and they kept saying like, "Oh, we're gonna push to next month," or "Oh, we're relocating." So I kept waiting, and I was like, "Let's do your birthday when this thing happens," but then it kept not happening, and so now a whole year. I gave up like a few months ago on it, but eventually got to a point where like her actual birthday was coming up again, and so I was like, what the fuck do I do? So she's getting a double whammy this year, and
nice.
I'm just a little stressed about getting it all handled, but it will get handled.
You'll get it handled
at the stroke of midnight. I'll have some sort of genius,
Yeah. Just call me. I have all sorts of odd objects laying around that I could ship your way if you need, a tail, if you need a crown, a Mothman wing.
Thank you. The thing is, I already have a bunch of presents because I've bought her things throughout the year. Plus, I have all of last year's fucking presents still
she hasn't even opened her presents yet from last year? That's funny.
No. And I know exactly what I'm going to do. Like, food-wise, I know what I'm going to do. Like, I just don't know how to tie it all together. Like, I love a theme, and I hate that it currently doesn't have a theme.
It feels like too disjointed.
Like, oh, here's just like a random day. No. Like, it's got to be, I want it to have a thing. Like, her first birthday was a scavenger hunt. The next one we went on a trip. The next way, there was like a concise thing we did. And
then the next year you did nothing. So that was a concise thing too.
Okay. Yeah. That was, I'm going to pretend that was Gef talking, but, yeah, so I feel bad that like I've got a bunch of like ideas, but they're not strung together in like a way, and so I'm just panicking about figuring that out. But anyway,
I know you'll nail it. I know that doesn't help your anxiety, but I know you'll nail it.
Thank you, especially because Allison cares 0% compared
I
to
know.
me. So
She's like, I don't care. I didn't even remember that we didn't do my birthday.
no, we've talked about it quite a lot.
Okay. Oh, she definitely remembers. Okay, got it.
Not in like a fight way, but it's become a running joke of like, hey, so when are we doing my birthday? And
Oh,
at this
funny.
point, I'm like, are we just celebrating last year? And then anyway.
You got to do
Anyway.
double. I see what you're saying now. It's come to a head. You have to commit this year.
The pressure's on. So anyway, that's why I drank. What was the question you had?
Oh, so well, I thought since we've done our podcast for so long and we never really talked, I don't think we did. Maybe we did earlier, or maybe we do every year and I just forget. But I feel like I've never really asked you like what Halloween was like for you as a kid, and like your favorite
that's
costumes.
lovely.
I'm sure we talked about that before, like our favorite costumes, but I'm curious like what your Halloween was like as a kid. Like what did you guys
I feel like
do?
we're falling in love all over again.
I
This is
know. I
nice.
feel like this is one of those like partner, like where you pick a card out of like a deck that says like ask your partner questions.
I
Icebreaker.
appreciate your curiosity, Christine.
Oh yeah, I was wondering today, and then I was like, why don't I just ask? Stupid. That was me.
fun.
That was Jeff talking to me.
And I actually don't know what it was like for you either. I just imagined some like crazy like German folklore situation,
You're
like
correct.
like Krampus snuggled up to you or something. So yeah, I don't know what yours was like either. Mine was well, the school always had like a Halloween parade situation. It should have been obvious much earlier on, Mom, but I always picked very masculine presenting
You weren't
costumes.
like Jasmine, like every other girl in.
No, I
age
was
8.
always something either in like mad scientist, vampire, Star Wars, Batman territory.
Cute.
Mom. And she goes, I never knew. I never saw it coming. Okay.
I never knew.
I guess you just walked around with your eyes closed. So I would always do like the Halloween thing. And then I don't know what the appropriate time was. Maybe no one ever told me like when the general time is supposed to start for Halloween, but we were pillowcase kids, not bag kids, like not like bucket kids. So my mom and I would take a pillowcase and walk through our neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors were also kids I went to school with, so we all knew each other. So like the parents met up, and I think this was Halloween. I'm pretty sure. It's just been so long now because I don't trick or treat anymore. But a lot of the moms would all get together at the cul-de-sac and drink wine while like they would bring out their lawn chair and a bottle, and they would
hand
just
out
sit.
candy.
And since they're at the end of the cul-de-sac, they could look directly down the entire street, and they would just watch all of us go from door to
That's
door.
like kind of ideal, huh?
Yeah, and then usually it was my house, but I remember the kids coming over and hanging out in the basement afterwards and doing the candy
Aw.
exchange thing.
How much
so.
candy would you get? Like a ton?
Like a third of a pillowcase, half a pillowcase.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
What was your
Yeah.
favorite costume from growing up? Like, did you have one where you're
Oh my
like,
God, are
oh,
we on
this
like
one
a
was
fucking first
epic?
date? What's happening?
Well, because I don't know. I'm just curious, and I feel like if I don't ask now, I'll have to wait another year.
I'm flattered. I'm just like, oh my God, the attention's on me. I like want to make
Maybe
a
I
good
need to
impression
dress
on
like
you.
maybe I need to dress like Jeff more often. It like changes my personality somehow.
Yeah. It's well, and then also show your shoulders. Apparently, I guess I'm like really flustered on this first date. What was my favorite candy? I was a Milky Way kid.
Oh, yummy.
Nowadays, it's still in my like top 10, but I think I've definitely fallen into Take Fives. I like Twix.
Oh, I like a Take 5 and a Twix. I mean, I like it all. I don't know. Who am I kidding?
I don't like anything with nuts. I tried to be like a Snickers kid, but it just didn't work out. So
I like the texture better with nuts, but
I feel like
I don't
what
like
do you-
Heath bar. I don't like malt
Ugh,
or
me
like
either.
Butterfinger. Blah.
My dad
Oh my
was
god!
always
Look at my tongue.
You look like an actual cryptid.
Holy shit! I look like. Hold on. Let me get him. Where'd he go? Oh, he fell. Krampus. Oh, here he is.
You're inverted.
I feel like I need to be Krampus for Halloween next
He's
year.
got a black body, you got a black tongue, vice versa.
Oh my god! Look at us.
Speaking of Krampus and what I imagine is your life in a haunted castle above a cemetery, which was reality, by the way. What on earth did Halloween look like for you? Because I imagine you were the house on Haunted Hill that everyone was scared to get candy from.
Nobody ever came to our house, but also it was on a private drive and like up a hill that you had to walk past, a very steep hill with a cemetery on the side, and there were
Oh,
no
forget it.
streetlights. So like nobody ever came, or if they did, it was like, wow, you trekked all the way up here for just this house.
For us to not give you candy because we did not plan for this.
So nobody really ever came. But when we were like younger, we lived on a street with like tons of houses. And so it was a riot. We always loved Halloween. Like it was a big deal. I had like countdowns. I got like the Oriental Trading Catalog and would like circle everything I wanted. We didn't like actually order it, but just looking
that was
through
what
it.
I did.
Isn't
I
it
feel like
fun?
maybe that was like a generational
I think
thing
that had
where
to
like
be a generational thing, right?
keep in mind if you happen to be younger and listening to this, we didn't have online shopping. We had
Internet.
we had the like 1 or 2 catalogs
Like
that came
Pottery
into the
Barn
mail.
Teen would come and we'd be like, whoa!
And you would get a Sharpie and you would circle all the things you liked and you would like very
And then what?
obviously leave it somewhere.
Leave it on the counter and it would turn up in the trash. And I was like, Mom, I circled all the things I want. She's like, I know. Congratulations.
That was like for Christmas, my mom would always be like, oh, here are some magazines, circle what you want. And that's how I would
fun.
request things. Otherwise, how would I know? Okay, so what was your costume aesthetic for the most part? And what was it like for you, especially with a brother and then a sister later? Like would you guys go out together? Did you like conspire at school with a group of kids, or was it just the two of you?
It was always our neighbors, Celine and Austin and Sophia, who are next door neighbors, and we always went trick-or-treating together. Our dads would always be the chaperones, and they all, my stepdad and their dad would always dress up as train conductors. I don't know why. I don't know if they like...
That's the most Tim thing I've heard my entire life.
It is. And like they were both engineers, like chemical or plastics engineers. So I'm like, maybe they like had worked together before. That's how my mom met Tim. So I'm like, maybe they had some weird meeting about, like, I don't know why, but and to this day, Tim always dresses as a train conductor. And they had like the train whistle. Burp, burp. It was
I will say he
bizarre.
looks like a drawing of a train conductor.
He does. Imagine the suspenders. I mean,
yeah,
it's like,
and the little ascot and shit.
Nailed the handkerchief. Nailed it. Yep.
I feel like I don't know him well enough, but he also does give vibes of having a special interest in trains.
Yes, he does. He does. And I feel like he would, and I wouldn't know it. And then one day he would just like say something really specific about trains. And we'd all be like, of course you would know that, you know?
Well, he'd be like, oh, come down to my basement. And he'd pull a dusty tarp off a big table. And there's like the whole city in tiny miniature train worlds.
That is he's a very dad guy, you know? Yeah. He definitely likes trains and cars, all that business. But yeah, we'd always dress up, but we always had really weird costumes. Like, I know that doesn't surprise you, but like one year I dressed as my 3rd grade teacher when I was in 3rd grade. And I wonder why I like never had friends at school, but like I was such a dork.
This is where I have to ask for the rest of us wondering, is this like your first clue that maybe you were did you have a crush on her? Is that where we are?
The problem was she was like 85.
That doesn't mean anything to some
It
people,
doesn't,
you know?
but like it was definitely just me being like, I don't know, sucking up to my teacher. Well, she and I also used to email to each other a lot.
Girl, please, you were having a love affair. You totally... Either you had a crush on her or a therapist would deep dive into why you felt so safe with her, you know?
I think I definitely also had
or a people-pleasing complex, maybe.
There are a few things looking back where I'm like, that's interesting. Like one year I was Harry Potter and everyone was like, oh, you're Hermione. And I was like, no, I'm Harry Potter because I think like I was kind of in love with Hermione. So I thought like, oh, if I'm Harry Potter, like, I don't know. And then there were also some things where one year I just dressed up as a boy. Nowadays, I'm like,
girl, me too.
Yeah, I know.
I still do it right now.
I remember I took brown Sharpie and drew myself like a nice little, some facial hair, and it didn't come off for like 2 weeks.
Do you know how affirming it was the first time I drew a beard on my face? And then like I heard like the door open and my mom came home and I was like, no.
Why did I use brown Sharpie? Oh boy. Anyway, it was always very chaotic. One year my mother she always like made our costumes, but one year she finally broke down and bought me a costume out of a catalog.
Mhm.
And it was, of all things, a cheerleader costume with
Oh
like
my
sequins
gosh.
on it.
Did
And
you like it?
I loved it. I was probably like
Okay.
7 or so. And there's this photo of me, and like it looks like I'm just, I don't know, in heaven. And I have like, for the first time ever, my mom put like a tiny bit of blush on my face. I was so
Oh.
happy. So that was like the most memorable, even though, we just fucking we used to come home like genuinely with like humongous, like our stepdads are also, or my stepdad is also very like dad in that he's like, let's find the perfect route and get as much candy as possible. And so we'd like take shortcuts and, run from one street to the next. And so we'd come home with like, I mean, it was like pillowcase fulls plus more. It was crazy. And then
It's
we'd
the
like
one
count them all. It was so fun.
It's the one time a year when you don't like feel embarrassed by your dad because his like weird level
Finally,
of
yes.
practicality is coming in
Yes.
handy. Like it's like, oh, you're gonna like take us on a fucking candy
It's like the first time I
adventure.
cared about a map. I couldn't read it because I still
Yeah.
don't understand how they work. But like, it's the first time where I thought, okay, Tim's writing down a map that I'm actually going to follow.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
once I think I will learn how to use a compass. Yeah.
Such a good point.
It's like because he's embarrassing. Like any dad is embarrassing
yeah.
most of the time until all of a sudden you're gonna get a pillowcase full of candy by the end of
Extra
it.
Milky Way to bring home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just loved Halloween. I just figured you also had like, and it's the same thing where my mom and her, our neighbor's mom, while our dads were train engineers or whatever, they would sit on my mom's porch and drink wine out of like a giant, they call it like the big giant bottle, and eat candy and just like hand it out and drink and wait for us to come home.
Did you then become the chaperone when your sister showed up?
No, Tim still did that because then I was old enough that I wanted to go out
Mm.
to bars.
Okay. All right.
I went once with her and she was a raccoon princess. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but you're doing a good job.
Yeah, it's like you're a very
So-
pretty trash panda. Yeah.
You're a very pretty trash panda princess with a staff and like a horn. You're doing it really great. But I have to go drink Coors Light with my new boyfriend, Blaze. So I was not always the best at being an older sister. But now I sit in the front of my house with a bottle of wine with my mom and we eat candy and hand it out. It's really fun. I'm like, oh, I kind of get it now.
Full circle.
I get the desire to just sit there and, look at cute kids' costumes and drink wine. It's the best.
Is next year, this is again, I know nothing about children. Is next year like the first trick-or-treating year for Leona?
I don't know, Em. I'm not really sure, but I think so. I feel like this year we might like kind of walk down the street, but like I don't think
I mean, she's not going to remember it.
she doesn't really know it. Like, get it? I don't know.
Yeah. But like
And she doesn't really-
4-year-olds, I think, like eat that shit up.
Yeah, I feel like that's when she's gonna be like, "Oh, I understand how this works. I get candy."
We'll have a new little addition to our coven, maybe.
Oh, boy.
So,
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, if you
ever
don't do
wanna
it next year-
come over here and be chaperone.
yeah. If
Feel
you
free, because I don't want to do it.
you at least got to do it by 4, I think. So
All right, I got some time.
cool. Well,
All right. Thank you for asking, and thank you for answering my
no,
my surprise questions
I mean, I'm sorry to everyone else who just listened to us like
for 40 minutes.
like just learn all about each other again like it's the first time.
Like
but
we've just met. Did your mom dress up? Sorry, last question. Like, did your mom dress up every year or not really? Because mine did
No,
not. She
no.
had no interest.
I don't think I even know if that was like a thing. I think like if we were hosting a Halloween party, and it
Okay,
was
fair point. I
expected.
feel like moms didn't really dress up unless like they were part of an event or something.
I think if I asked my mom to, she would have done it. But I
I
think
say
she's
as
also
I'm wearing a tail around my neck like a lunatic.
I think she's very glad that I never asked her to do it.
Yeah,
But-
mine too.
Had I known that was an option, I probably would have.
Yep.
I know when she was, I think up until like the year I was born, she was doing Halloween though, because I have a picture of her dressed as Wonder Woman. And by the way, she looked fine. Like
Bangin'.
she looked
To
so
pull that
damn good.
costume off, man. She looked good. I've seen that photo.
Have you seen that photo? And my
yeah,
dad was
you sent it to me once.
Superman's. The two of them both. I was like, okay, Justice League, what's
Power
going on?
couple
I know. Well,
for a minute, maybe.
I'm excited to tell you my story.
I can't
Um,
wait.
I was trying to think of something very Halloweeny, and I led into it last week with talking about black cats.
That's
And
right.
this time around, I kind of did a bit of a shift. It's not like a classic Halloween, but I thought for Halloween we should talk about something that's like dark and scary. And so, but then, anyway, let's just get into it because I just wanted to try a topic that we haven't done before, and I've been holding off on this because I'm afraid that like I'll be expected to like do a series. Like once I've done one, I should do all the others, but I don't know if that's the case. But we're starting with one today. I thought we should talk about one of the 7 princes from hell. An archdemon, if you will.
Oh my. I'm ready.
So today for Halloween, we are doing a 101 on Beelzebub.
Shut the fuck up. I feel like Jeff's ears are ringing. He's amped for this.
He's saying, "Oh, my buddy down there.
Oh, my
Okay."
friend.
So let's crack into it.
Oh, beautiful. I already opened mine, but you can pretend.
I've been looking at this water.
Oh no, I've been talking for 40 minutes. You're
It's
just
okay.
thirsty.
I just wanted for the vibe. I was like, I can't open it. Okay, so let's talk about Beelzebub. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but like history is very long, and there's
History
a lot
in general is long,
in general, but also
Sure.
like as long as Beelzebub's existence is also pretty long.
Okay.
And it's also like very controversial. There's like a lot of hot debates on his origins. Scholars don't totally know where he came from. So I'm giving like, if you wanted like a 6-hour thing on the backstory of Beelzebub, I hate to break it to you, this is yet another dipping your toe in 101.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was going to be way too overwhelming.
I think we can all appreciate that, though, as probably most of us are new to the backstory of Beelzebub.
I didn't know it at all. And so, like, my understanding up until this point, especially as someone who was not raised in a Christian household, which in my mind means something different, I always assumed it was just a nickname for the devil.
Right.
I didn't
right.
know that he was his own
He's
demon.
a separate creature.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Entity? Being?
Entity. Figure.
Hottie?
Icon.
Toddy? Icon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
for
it.
sure.
That's the one. Yep.
Um,
Nailed it.
So these days he is wildly associated with Christian demonology. He is known as one of the 7 princes of hell. And it's not a name for Satan. Like it doesn't become conflated with Satan until the New Testament when Beelzebub, the name is used when talking, I think, about... See, this is like immediately where it gets confusing because in one way Beelzebub's being mentioned and it gets conflated with Satan, but also I think in Judaism, Jews started using the word and conflating it with Satan because Satan at the time was a verb for Satan wasn't a person. It was a verb for like temptation or having a hard time like getting over something.
Verb or like a noun?
A verb. It was like tempting or
Oh,
overcoming
I didn't know
temptation. So, and then over time kind of morphed into a figure. And so that's another whole theory. I'm telling you, this was hard. This
Seems
was
very
hard.
complex and yeah.
So we're going to go with kind of the mainstream stuff before I just get into nitty gritty,
Fair.
So before all that, Beelzebub had roots in ancient Jewish, Christian, and pagan lore. So his story is very difficult to pin down. But starting out hot, there are a lot of variations to his name too. They all vary by culture, by language, and they have their own histories. But sometimes you'll hear Beelzebub, Beelzebuth, or Beelzebuth, and then Beelzebul. But if you hear anything like that, it all becomes Beelzebub.
Gotcha.
Mainly it's theorized that before he got wrapped up in like officially Christian demonology, like seen as a demon, he was actually a god. There is a story about Ahaziah in the Bible, which if you know more than I do, which I'm sure you do, please jump in. But Ahaziah, no? Oh, okay, good.
I don't think so. It's not ringing a bell yet.
Let me teach you about the Bible then, Christine.
Finally.
So Ahaziah was a ruler of the kingdom of Judah, and he suffered very badly from a fall and he sent messengers to seek answers for him about his recovery. And he sent these messengers to the city of Ekron. And I guess Ekron was a Philistine city, which was, they were a major enemy to the Israelites. And so even though I guess they were enemies, he was like, I don't care. I want my messengers to go to the city of Ekron anyway, because I want advice from the god of Ekron, Beelzebub.
Oh, okay.
And so Beelzebub is a name that might have actually meant ball of Baal, not ball. Ball of flies or Lord of Flies. So that's why he's associated now with flies, and why when you think of like the exorcism stories out there, there's like flies everywhere.
Amityville.
Yes, they think that must be one of his indicators that he's nearby. And so in Hebrew and Jewish literature, Beelzebub actually means Lord of Dung or Lord of Filth.
Oh, that's nice.
But those also often include flies, right? So
Right, sure. That makes sense.
So flies are kind of his thing. If you know, your stepdad
Good
is
for
to
him.
trains, Beelzebub is to flies.
Listen, someone had to be the stepdad to flies, and I guess it's Beelzebub.
It's got to be. So in ancient religions, Beelzebub is linked to he's linked to sacrifice. So remember, he's like still seen as a god, right?
Right.
And he's linked to sacrifice because he's the one that would drive away or control flies when bloodshed appeared.
Oh, okay.
And for a long time, flies also symbolized plague, death, and sickness. And although those sound like really dark things, he was still in charge of sickness, therefore preventing sickness.
Therefore,
so,
like the opposite, right?
yeah.
Interesting.
And so maybe he could help with Ahaziah's sickness after he had this fall and he had these injuries. So that's why he sent his messengers to this god, because he is the god of sickness and health.
I see.
But like I said, Ekron was a Philistine. Am I saying that right? Philistine, not Philistine.
I think so. I don't know. I was wondering that too.
I looked it up, and on YouTube, a lot of people were saying Philistine, but maybe they're also all like me.
Philistine. Maybe you are a Philistine, and that's why you're saying it wrong. Philistine. I think that's fine. With all the authority that holds, I think that's fine.
Like I'm sorry, this isn't the church you were looking for. If someone's upset that I'm saying Philistine wrong, I'm trying. So he was the god of Ekron, which was a Philistine city, again, major enemy of the Israelites. And Ahaziah's messengers were supposed to go anyway and meet one of Beelzebub's oracles, so that way they could ask what Beelzebub could do for their king. But they get stopped along the way, and they don't actually get to meet Beelzebub. And that's because the god in Israel was mad that Ahaziah didn't go to him for help, and instead he went to the god in Ekron.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
So he sends an angel to Elijah, this guy Elijah. And he has the angel. It's like such a fucking long game of telephone. Like, this is where I get confused with Christianity. I'm like, God, could you not just like send a text directly to Ahaziah?
Right, like, can't you just say it? You know,
like,
make it easy.
You're so messy. Like, why are you telling the angel to tell Elijah to tell the messengers to
it's
tell
almost
Ahaziah?
Like you want to be part of the drama. I mean,
like,
I'm
girl,
just saying what it looks like.
If you create everything, including the fucking problem, like,
yeah. Whoa. You heard it here first.
Loaded statement.
Whoa,
I'm sorry.
Whoa. I'm not part of this anymore. That was all M.
All I'm saying is, in this scenario, you sound like a little bit of a shit stirrer. I'm just saying.
That's correct.
So he and also, like, you're mad that, okay, whatever. So he's upset that, like, he wasn't, like, discussed with or talked to. So he tells the angel, go to Elijah. Tell Elijah to go to the messengers, and tell the messengers to tell Ahaziah a message from me. But I couldn't possibly fucking say it myself, even though I'm God.
And make sure you get it right. Okay.
It's like, just slip a note in the locker. Jesus Christ. Like, like, just be done with this.
Don't you come in dreams? Just like whisper it.
Like, honestly,
Whatever.
no wonder Ahaziah didn't want to talk to you. You know what
I
I'm
mean, I
saying?
get it. It's no
Like-
offense, but like it seems like he needed some more urgency, and you're taking things like the long way for no good reason.
The long way. You're making a lot of stops at gas stations on the way to the
That's exactly right.
destination.
That's exactly right.
So, okay. So God's mad. He tells them, blah, 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 blah. So the angel finds Elijah, says, I've got a message for Ahaziah, but I, like God, am not going to say it directly. So you have to go do it for me. And Elijah finds the king's messengers along the way, because remember, they're going to
Right.
Ekron to talk to a middleman for Beelzebub. All these people are so fucking messy. But Elijah and the messengers find each other, and Elijah says, "Tell Ahaziah that he has to talk to God." And it's like, oh my God, that's not
for
even
God's
helpful.
Sake.
Exactly. So, you have to talk to the God of Israel. He's mad at you. So Ahaziah's messengers tell Ahaziah this, and Ahaziah is pissed that Elijah disrupted them from this whole goose chase to find somebody who could help him.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
So he refuses. He's basically saying all the things I'm saying right now, and he refuses to consult God. He's like, this is crazy. Like, this is so petty. This makes God mad. And God goes back to Elijah and then tells Elijah again, tell Ahaziah something for me, since Ahaziah is mad at me. Now I'm mad at him, even though I was mad before. Tell Ahaziah, since you went to a different God than me, you're going to die. Which is
it's hard to mess that up during the game of telephone. Like, you're gonna die. It's like pretty clear message. At least there's no like ifs, ands, or buts about it this time.
Also, like, why like Elijah at this point has to be like, why don't you just kill him? Like, why do I have to
Just
go tell
right.
him? And then
It's like
Oh
so
my God.
awkward that I have to go tell him that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're putting me in
seems
a
like a
tough
lot of
spot
work.
because you don't want to confront
Seriously.
him. So anyway, some believe that in this whole story, because Beelzebub's origin was like him as like this Philistine deity, that
Right.
must have made him a natural enemy of God in Israel. And so because it was God versus Beelzebub, it led to him over time being seen as a demon because he was the enemy of God.
Okay. I see.
Which I feel like there
God
were
was mad that they talked to him instead of Okay.
Yeah, like so God was jealous of him, and now he's a demon.
He's
Like talk
jealous.
about a PR stunt, like smear campaign.
I mean, and it worked. It
It
worked.
worked. And by the way, Beelzebub, keep in mind, Ahaziah sent messengers to talk to an oracle who they never even got to. So the oracle
Yeah.
never even got to talk to Beelzebub. Beelzebub didn't even talk to anybody in this whole story, and now he's a demon. Like
He just like wakes up from a nap and is like, "Wait, what? Why is my phone blowing up? Why am I canceled all of a sudden?"
exactly. He's like, I literally didn't even know these fucking people had a meeting with my guy. What are you talking about?
What? Where? Yeah, I think
now
that's
he's the
really
demon.
unfair, honestly.
By the way, if there was ever a Bible class where it was discussed like this, I might have actually become a Christian. I would
I
have
was
been like,
gonna
oh.
say you're doing a really good job at like being God when you're like, tell him that I heard what he said, and I think he's gonna die. I feel like you'd be very good if we did like a nativity play or something. Like you'd be really good at being the
And then
role of
Beelzebub
God.
was like, motherfucker.
I'll be
Like,
Beelzebub. I'll just sleep in the corner, wake up, and be like, "What the fuck did I do?"
it really
Covered in
like
flies.
if this is how it was discussed to me in youth group, I would have fully converted for the drama.
Same. I would have been all about Bible study, man.
It'd be like how I got into like my stories, my shows, where it's like I don't even want to
Your
watch this, but I have to
stories.
know what happens next.
Yeah.
So okay, so now we know where, in theory, Beelzebub became a demon.
Right.
He went from a deity who would protect people against illness to becoming this like
Aw.
evil entity who sends flies symbolizing sickness to people. So now he's like causing plagues.
Okay.
Other scholars believe that his name comes from the ancient words foe, enemy, and adversary.
Oh.
Which,
Wait,
like-
wait for it. Wait for it. I have 3 spirits and their names are foe, faith, and truth. That's one of the Gef the Mongoose quotes.
Wow, you really did find a way to fit that in.
I don't know why that's a quote from Gef the Mongoose, but it is. So
Are you just-
apparently that's one of my spirits, foe.
Hang on, let me have a think. Are you just scanning the quotes over and over while I tell the story, looking
No.
for inserts?
The one with foe I had in my head already. And then you said foe. So I went to the tab and I typed in Control F and typed in foe and found it.
Sneaky, sneaky.
That's the only one I remember. So it's not going to happen again, unfortunately, or fortunately.
I understand. Well, eventually the figure Beelzebub evolves from those words of foe, adversary, to become an archdemon in religious lore.
Wow.
Really blows up all of a sudden. Just like
villain
villain
origin
of
story.
the century.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm saying archdemon, is that right? Because archangel, right?
Yeah.
Not archdemon.
That's right. No, I think it's Arc.
Okay. So archdemons, for those who don't know, I didn't know. I mean, they sound like the head bitch in charge. Which is pretty much how it is also explained to me on Google, which is they're leaders of the demonic hosts in hell. The same way that like archangels are kind of in charge of the other angels in heaven.
I see. They're like the manager level
head bitch in charge.
supervisors. Yeah.
One scholar named David Silontko, he suggests that archdemons all actually started just as negative words and concepts that over time figures were created to embody these words. So by that theory, demons like just don't exist. They're just symbolic for negativity.
Interesting.
So an example is Belial, who is another prince of hell. Or no, I don't know if he's a prince of hell, but he's an archdemon.
He's in that crowd.
They mingle at parties at the very least.
Yeah.
So Belial meant to be wicked or to stand against God, and over time a figure just kind of developed out of that concept, and now Belial as a demon exists.
I see.
Or even Satan meant to well, and I guess in ancient Judaism it meant, what did I say earlier, like overcoming temptation. There's also the definition of Satan being meaning to accuse somebody or to point out guilt and sins. So,
interesting. I didn't know that.
And eventually that role became known as Satan, who accuses you of your guilt and your sins. Okay. So perhaps Beelzebub also started out as a negative word and eventually evolved into just another archdemon. And Beelzebub shows up in the New Testament. This is what I was talking about earlier. He shows up in the New Testament when Jesus meets a man possessed by demons who couldn't see or speak.
Uh-oh.
Whoopsies. But never to fear, Jesus drove out the demons and he healed the man, claiming that he exorcised him with divine power.
That's like a very ableist story. Like, he's blind.
You don't
he must
say.
be possessed by demons. Okay, sure.
It's not only is something crazy wrong with him, but it is beyond the scope of the earth. It must come from above.
God has to fix it.
Yeah.
Or below, correct.
So the opponents of Jesus said that, okay, you use these powers to drive out the demons and heal him, but your powers must have come from a demonic place.
Aha. It's like any magic is bad magic, like that kind of headspace. Okay.
It's like, you're not that special, girl. You know, like, you are doing something shady and it seems a little evil and you know how to mess with demons. What's this about?
We see right through you.
Yeah. It's not like you just woke up today and just learned today how to repel demons unless you know where this is coming from.
Yeah, likely story, my pal.
And there's actually
being not a narc. My pal.
my guy.
My big guy.
my big strong guy. So his opponent said, it is only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that he can drive out demons. And Jesus says, this is like such boy math. Okay, so he goes, if Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? And if I drive out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your people drive them out? Which basically he's saying,
like, whatever you just said, fine, I give up.
That also feels like a dude thing. It's like, if I say something kind of like vague and complicated, no one will like stop me.
It's like kind of convoluted, but it sounds smart.
It's like when someone in tech is describing their job and I'm like, you know what? It's better if you just don't say anything.
You know
I'll
what?
disagree.
You win.
It's like
Congratulations.
Honestly, I'll pay you to not tell me what you do, because I don't need the headache. So, basically, he's saying it makes no sense to use demon powers to chase away demons because demons don't fight each other.
Okay.
Because they need each other, or else their kingdom would fail. That's
right. Sure. Okay.
kind of the point he's getting at.
Whatever you say.
I would argue that there's less logic when it comes to demonic energy, but it's Jesus, so who am I to say anything?
Potato,
Yeah. So this passage is significant, though, because it actually names Beelzebub as a prince of demons, and that makes him officially very relevant in Christian demonology.
Okay.
So there's also the Testament of Solomon. Does that sound familiar to you?
I actually know this one.
Oh, great. So true or false, Beelzebub's involved in that?
Oh, I don't know that part. I only know the part with the baby.
Oh, great. Okay.
Is that a different thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I went off my notes and I tried my best and I looked at multiple sources to make sure that all of this sounded right, but I didn't look in a Bible, so
if I'm remembering correctly, Solomon was a very wise king, and that was what he was known for. And there were two women who were claiming mother. I'm trying to think of the right to be the mother of this baby.
Okay.
And they were arguing back and forth, and they were trying to get the baby. They went to King Solomon, and he said, "Okay, we'll cut the baby in half.
Oh, yes, I know this story.
You each can have a half." And then one of the women said, "No, I'd rather she take the baby."
Right.
And then he said, "That means you're the real mother because you didn't want to cut the baby in half." Which, kind of thinking about it, I'm like, would either one want whatever? Anyway,
who was going to say, "Yeah, I'll take the top half"?
Yeah, great plan. I want the one with diapers on it. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So that's a story I know. I'm delighted to hear that Beelzebub is involved somehow in Solomon's story.
Yeah, so in it, apparently, Beelzebub declares himself the ruler of demons. I don't know how we missed this part.
Oh, that part was not relayed to me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think there's a couple accounts of King Solomon in here. And so he declares himself the ruler of demons and convinces humans to worship demons instead of God. But Beelzebub also claims that he has the ability to cause jealousy and wars and incite murder. So, bad luck. He shouldn't have led with that. But we aren't sure, though, when it was written. It could have been sometime between 100 AD and 1000 AD. And it is the whole Testament of Solomon is rejected by scholars and often not considered religious canon.
Oh.
Fun fact.
Didn't know that.
But it's still relevant because in the late Middle Ages, European writers got super into demonology, and they kind of brought this back and used it a lot for their own writings about specific figures in hell.
I see. Okay.
So then even if it's not considered canon by all religions, it's still well known by all religions because it got kind of repopularized. Revamped, yeah. And so Beelzebub was often written about and equated with Satan. And they both essentially kind of have the same role as being, a demon. I don't know how different you can really be, but in my mind, I'm sure there's like a whole group of witches out there who are like, they're very different.
One has, I mean, come on now.
But in my image of demon, I feel like you could put anyone's name to it and they all kind of, when one calls out sick, another can jump in real quick.
That's right. There's like a general through line narrative. Yeah, that connects them. I get it. Yeah.
In the 16th century, archdemons became associated with the 7 deadly sins, which we talked about in episode 316. Mm-hmm. And this was, 200 years before this was when Dante's Divine Comedy came out and was like a really popular book.
A banger.
And so, a banger. It did not in its flop era.
No, certainly not.
So it was huge, and that's what got people really into 7 deadly sins. And then by the 16th century, so 200 years later, archdemons became associated with these 7 deadly sins. And that was kind of where archdemons really fucking thrived, because now they, instead of being a vague demon that, I guess he's not so vague if he's known for like sickness and, he apparently either looks like a giant fly or is covered in flies at some point. It's now you can take like one word, one sin, and attribute it to each demon, and they just kind of become more
Got it.
part of the zeitgeist.
Their identities are like narrowed down to like a core
Yes.
concept. Okay.
It's easier to remember.
Yeah.
So because there were 7 deadly sins, they needed 7 demons. So they had 7 archdemons that were linked to these. Do you happen to know any of the associations?
Oh, I should. I don't. I should. I feel like we covered this on rituals once, or not covered it, but talked about it, and I can't remember.
So the main one, the most powerful one, is Lucifer, which is another one I forget that Lucifer and Satan are not the same
I know.
person.
Those seem conflated to me all the time, but I guess they're not.
So Lucifer is the Prince of Pride. Ironically, he's
Pride.
also the most powerful, although I wonder if he's just saying that because he's the
Yeah,
Prince of Pride.
that's what he wants you to think.
There's Mammon, who is the Prince of Greed. There's Leviathan, who's the Prince of Envy. There's Belphegor, who is the Prince of Sloth. Then there's Asmodeus, the Prince of Lust. Satan, or Santinus, who is the Prince of... my next bullet is, this reminds me of that TikTok song.
I miss it. I miss seeing it on my feed every day.
But you know what's interesting? Okay, so Santinus is the Prince of Wrath, and Beelzebub is now the Prince of Gluttony, which we'll get into.
Ooh,
but
okay.
Interesting, because I thought that song, if you don't know what we're talking about on TikTok, there's an audio clip that people were using a lot that was like an orchestra sound of people singing different demons' names, and it was like Belial, Behemoth, Beelzebub.
So good. So beautiful.
Thank you. And but I'm realizing Belial and Behemoth are not. Only 4 of those, the 6 that get mentioned in that song, were archdemons. So I don't know why they picked those 6.
Maybe because it just fit, it rhymed or
Just
something.
sounded right.
Yeah.
Whatever. But fun fact, because I always thought, oh, those must be like all the princes of hell. But there's
Yeah.
only 6 of them, and 2 of them aren't princes of, or aren't
For
archdemons.
once, TikTok isn't factually true, which is hard to believe. But
I
whatever.
honestly reject that.
I
So.
reject that as well. You're right.
So the one to assign each archdemon with a certain sin was this guy named Peter Binsfield, who was a big pro-torture witch hunter. He was very into the torturing people until they confessed thing.
Right. It sounds
so
like he was into these demons for more than just like naming them, but whatever.
Sounds
Whatever
like he
guy.
was into studying them to justify any of his claims against women he didn't like.
Sounds problematic.
So I don't know why we take his word on this, but
Real.
apparently he's the expert. So, or it's at least what we now know them by. So, and yes, Beelzebub is the Prince of Gluttony, which didn't totally make sense to me at first because I think of flies and sickness because that's all we've talked about. But he is associated with gluttony because he became so associated with unholy rituals in witchcraft. So, and I'll explain. So witches were thought to use their powers. We've talked about this a little bit in the past, but witches were thought to use their powers to overindulge in food and dancing and sex, and ultimately overindulge in anything that Christian society was trying to limit or restrict. So if Christians said, don't do this or don't do a lot of it, witches were like, I'm going to do it in excess, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to have my, I'm not listening to you. So an example is that witches' gatherings were always described as like having excessive feasts, and eventually that leads into some terrifying blood libel situations because their feasts included human flesh and blood,
babies and shit like that. Yeah.
Which my next bullet point, you're very on it, Christine. That,
for once,
it is. Their big excessive feasts were seen as a perversion of the Eucharist because instead of a small taste of Jesus's blood and body, witches were gorging themselves on blood and bodies.
I never thought about that. That's gross.
It's gross, and I guess
and
if you're in
horrible.
that mindset, it makes sense. Like I see that there's at least a bit of a connection compared to like
I suppose
other stuff. So yeah, the connection is that they are all about overindulgence, feasting on humans that are not Jesus's body.
God forbid.
And again, this, like I said, this got into blood libel because it was used to persecute Jewish people because witches wanted the blood of Christian children for feasts and rituals. And I guess they think the Jews would also be really into taking the blood of Christian
Sure.
children for feasts and rituals.
That tracks. Totally tracks.
Because this fell under gluttony or this overindulgence, it was thought that of all the demons, Beelzebub would like this the most and hang out amongst witches the most. And this made him a bit of an icon for the stereotype of witches who make deals with the devil for power.
Okay.
Because how do I put it? Well, I guess I should mention, for there to be a bit more of a connection for people, I think we're stepping away from Beelzebub representing sickness, where we should also say that he was also known to be able to command other demons. He was like the operator on the end of
He
the
really
line,
was
if you
the
will.
HBIC.
Yeah, he was the one who was able to summon other demons or contact other demons or reach other demons. And so that's one of the connections that I didn't mention, that's why he's like the demon for witches, because if they
What a
want to summon
powerhouse.
demons. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So and he happened because he was then associated with witches. I think he was then associated with gluttony. I think that's the line. But so he became a bit of an icon because if witches wanted to make a deal with him, speaking of black cats last week, he is said to be the demon who would send a witch their animal familiar.
Oh, good for him.
Because he could summon dark, forces. So he would be able to either bring you some sort of demonic familiar, or he could bewitch an animal on Earth to be like your medium for him.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's like, Beelzebub, I want a cat for Christmas, but also I really need her to be able to contact other worlds.
I want a cat for Christmas too.
So Beelzebub was apparently the SPCA, if you will. And
that's nice. He founded it.
the witches say, I need a friend. Beelzebub says, let me go through our system and see what I can find. Oh, yes, here's a black cat for you. And then he would also give these familiars their gifts, again, because he could summon that kind of magic, or that kind of magic wasn't the word, but power. So he often gave familiars the gift of flight, premonitions, and or shapeshifting. So full circle, he was once considered the god of preventing illness, and now he's helping witches spread plagues of torment to Christians. That's how he's now being seen.
At least that connects. I feel like a lot of the story people were just reaching, but this actually I can see the connection. I
can see the as you said earlier, the villain origin story of there is
he's like, I was trying to help, but okay, fine.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I guess you don't want me to prevent sickness, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
This reasoning kind of all started during, this is where sickness comes back in. The reasoning of all this kind of started during the bubonic plague, and people needed someone to blame. And so not only they didn't blame demons just yet, but they wanted to blame someone during this very heated, controversial time. So they blamed witches. And also, they ended up later also blaming Jews and equating them to witches because they were anti-Christian.
Why not?
And because Beelzebub was helping them, this meant that the witches must be spreading sickness and that they were immune to sickness because they were in cahoots with the demons. So, which is another fucked up thing that so if you didn't get sick from the plague and you survived, now we're going to accuse you of a witch because you must be
because why didn't you die? And it's you're being accused by someone who also didn't die. So seems like kind of a
exactly
pot calling kettle black situation.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you're a man who survived the plague and you don't like a woman who survived the plague.
That is true.
Imagine if you're a mad married couple that both survived the plague and he's like, shit, she's still here. Oh, I know.
Oh, man.
Witch. So it is believed that Peter Binsfield, who created the connections between demons and sins, he died of the plague, and that only helped spread rumors that witches just got him back for
oh, jeez.
telling on them, I guess. So, although few were probably actually doing this back then, a lot of modern occultists today actually do work with Beelzebub. And because we're trying to reclaim his original title, he is not all bad.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
He's said still, I mean, he's like known to be an archdemon, so he's not someone to be summoned lightly. You have to like know what you're doing. But can you imagine his bio? He's like, I'm not to be summoned lightly.
And everyone's like, okay, guy, calm down.
Relax.
Relax.
So he is said to be helpful when it comes to overthrowing or escaping from an abusive person.
Interesting.
I wonder if that's because of like mental health. Like, I don't know if we're like stretching the word sickness, they're stretching the word health, but
Fair point. Yeah.
no, I do know the answer to this. It's because he's also he's the demon of, I didn't write it in my notes. About
Conflict or something?
yeah, like something like he's for the tyrants or something like that. So like, if you're like running from an authority figure or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so he's helpful when trying to escape from an abusive authority, and some say he's also helpful still in contacting him about like improving your health or to cast a powerful protection over your body, which I guess is, again, we're stretching like your health and your safety. So he's good at casting powerful protection. He can also be linked to rebirth in the circle of life.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Some people say, I saw like one blog, which like this is, I liked where he was going, but I don't know how true this is. He was saying like, because he's involved in health, and he knows your body at a cellular level, if he's like the one that can prevent sickness, then like you can also use him in like rituals about biology. I was like, which like I'm sure he meant. That's what I thought. I'm sure he means like some sort of like, if he's about rebirth, maybe like plants or something.
We're so stupid. We're like, oh, I need help with my AP bio homework. And he's like, that's not what I meant. I meant I can help with cellular regeneration. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means.
I was like, that makes it sound like Beelzebub has like beakers and is working with Iron Man or something. Like, but
he's like dissecting frogs. Actually, he might be doing that. That seems like something he might actually do, which is disturbing. Whoa, sorry. A huge thunderstorm just started and it like hit the windows, scared the crap out of me. It was very good timing. I feel like I'm in it now.
Even crazier, because my next bullet point is that one of the things you can offer to him is storm water.
Is what? Storm what?
Storm water.
Oh yeah, you can have it. I'm not gonna take it.
I think that's because of like the kind of, I guess, in my opinion, it's like a bit of a stretch, but health and rebirth can also mean like nature and plants. And
fertile lands, all that business.
So I don't know a situation where I would need this, but Beelzebub can also help you cast curses if you need that. And he's also helpful when it comes to summoning other demons for rituals, because that's one of his powers, that he can command other demons.
And I can see why that would get dicey if you didn't really know what you were doing and you were doing it out of anger or something, and you wanted to cast a curse,
exactly,
or a hex, and then you involved an archdemon. It seems like it would probably work, but then it might come back to bite you, or I don't know. It seems like it would be a little messy.
Like, and I can see why religious conservatives would hear something like that and be like, I don't want to fuck around with witches.
Totally,
but like
red flag.
But at the same time, I was like looking for an example of why you would need to summon a demon through another demon, and one of the examples was like to perform exorcisms. Is like you might need him to contact another demon for you and like be the mouthpiece to. I mean, I don't know how many witches are out there performing exorcisms, but like it's an example of what you could positively use a demon for. You know?
Right.
And interesting that that's even mentioned, because when we covered the exorcism of Anna Eklund, which was episode 32 all those years ago.
Oh my God.
Beelzebub is said to be the one who possessed her. So wait a minute, you can possess people, but also you could be called to help with a exorcism. I don't know.
He's like, yeah, I'll be right there. I'm totally not the one in here. Hold on, I'm coming. That's like so awkward.
That's the funniest thing I think you've said all day.
That wasn't me. That was Jeff, and we all know it.
No, that was Beelzebub inside of you. So,
Shit.
if you do summon him, you might actually also do the opposite of your request, or he'll do the opposite of your request to keep you on track if you don't listen to him. It's pretty much like, if you woke me up from my nap, it better be fucking worth it. That's what his mentality is.
Yes, okay, I get it. That I can relate to.
A lot of people will reach out to him because they want to improve their life, improve their health. But if you're not going to listen to his advice or accept his guidance, then he will make things worse until you listen to him. So,
okay, I can see that. That's a fair reaction.
It's like, do this better. And then if you don't, he's going to be like, you fucking got me out of bed for
then
this.
why did
like,
you ask
no.
Right. Yeah. Why did you even ask?
So the overall advice is summon him at your own risk, and only when you're ready for his influence, because otherwise things could be more chaotic for you. Yeah. And he will often appear as flies in unusual numbers, and it bodes well for you to make an offering to him, including stormwater. He also appreciates insects, taxidermy, composting, and plants, I guess for the rebirth kind of thing.
I just took the compost out today, and by I mean Blaze took the compost out. But maybe that's what's happening. The rain, the compost.
Yeah. It's all making sense. Also, another offering is expensive alcohol because it would acknowledge his royalty as prince.
Oh.
But the best
Get
offering...
some Crown Royale from Target and put that out for you.
He'd love it.
I only said that because when I was looking for crowns on the Target app, it kept bringing up Crown Royale. And I was like, I'm not looking for that right now. I'm looking for a paper crown. Yeah.
Well, my last note is that the best offering you can give him is healthy food because it symbolizes his space in health and sickness.
That's weird because if he's the glutton, you'd think
that's a great point. But keep in mind that fucking pro-torture witch hunter is the one who made that claim.
Okay, fair point. So maybe he really isn't gluttonous. He's like, I like soy milk.
Maybe he is a glutton for healthy food.
Okay, that could be possible. Yeah.
Especially of the healthy foods, apples is a good one for any demon because it represents the knowledge from the tree of life.
Oh, they like that shit, yeah.
And one blogger, because I was like, what about junk food? One blogger who apparently has experience with Beelzebub said he does not appreciate junk food. Quote, he won't even eat waffles.
Hey now.
I know.
Watch
That's
your mouth,
honestly,
blogger.
I know it's Beelzebub, but that is my biggest problem with him out of everything so far. So
we both ate frozen waffles today. I meant to tell you I ate one for lunch with Leona. So you know what? This is nonsense.
Talk about a full circle is that we ate waffles and then I'm ending my notes on waffles. So
it seems correct. That seems like how it was always going to be.
Yeah. Anyway, that is Beelzebub.
I genuinely did not know even 10% of that, I think.
I'm really, and this was one of those topics where I'm scared to present it because wow, there's so many theories and wow, there's so much history and wow, there's so many people who know this topic better than me.
Yeah.
I mean, and including like people who read their Bible every day or witches who have worked with him before. Like, I don't want to say anything that like was wrong, but I was also
people
giving
who read their Bible every day stopped listening a long time ago after the bullshit
true.
I say about the Bible and pretend to know what King Solomon did.
Yeah, I guess I'm more worried for the witches out there because I'm sure there's books and books and books just about this guy, and I barely scratched the surface. But
yeah, but that's what this podcast is for.
I think that's the gist. I think that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I feel like this is not a educational podcast in the grand scheme of things, at least.
It's not often like a 2 or 3 parter. So if I can't say it in 45 minutes, it's probably not coming out of my mouth.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, I hope for people who are not heavily into it that I hope it was an okay crash course.
And if you did a great job.
If you know more than me, please, let me know. So,
excellent.
All right. That was Beelzebub.
You did it. All I have to say is I am not evil. I could be if I wanted. You don't know what damage or harm I could do if I were roused to. I could kill you all, but I won't.
I can't tell if that was Beelzebub, Jeff, or Christine. That was too fitting, some might say.
You'll never know.
I feel like, did we say something where we needed more merch with Gef.
Yes.
Gef talking or Gef something with quotes. I feel like just one quote isn't enough. We almost need like a post, like a
Like, he
motivational
has
poster.
so many good ones. Like, this is me. So I guess Jim was the guy whose house he lived in, but I'm going to change it to M. And it says, upon noticing that M was reading the Bible, this is what Gef said. Look at that pious old atheist reading the Bible. He will swear in a minute. That's me talking about you. Yeah, reading the Bible. I know you're going to swear at me in a second.
Blasphemous.
Nice try.
Oh my
boy.
God. I'm
Put the
so
bloody gramophone on.
I'm so proud of you for dressing up, by the way. I feel so stupid. It didn't even occur to me to dress
You
up. I
look
was just
the most Halloween-y of all. Trust
was
me. Yours
really
is way better.
I was really proud of my sweater, but now
No,
I'm
I love
realizing
your
like
sweater.
how stupid am I? I didn't fucking dress up for Halloween. It
Who
didn't even
cares?
cross.
Oh my gosh. This is October 5th. We're way early like recording this. And again, this was an hour before recording decision. This was a very
I
this
know,
was
but
not
now
a
I'm like,
planned.
what do you
thing.
if you could dress me as anything for Halloween? Or
Ooh.
undress me, Christine. What
Ooh la la. Hubba wubba.
what would you dress me as? Like, what's a
Hmm.
costume you fucking wish I could deliver on, or you think I could deliver on?
Okay. I mean, you've already nailed Zach Bagans. Like, there's not even room to explore that again. I mean, you could be cute as a little hot stuff devil, you know?
That's true. Maybe
hot
next year we
stuff.
you want to tag team it next year?
That would be cute. We could do Casper and Hot Stuff Demon.
I'll be Casper.
You be Casper, I be Demon. Oh, that would be really cute.
You know what I think we should also do? We should tag team sometime. Is our
Yeah.
ghosty guys, our logo for our tour?
Oh, our fucking logo. That would be genius. I love it.
I mean, I could do that anyway because mine's the ghost. Yours is a skeleton though. So
Mine's
you
easy because I can just wear like one of those skeleton costumes and hold a
Yeah,
glass
it's too
of wine.
easy. Except
But
we
it
don't
would
have
be fun.
we don't have very comfy armoire chairs or whatever they're called. The
Oh, we could get our hands on those. Some armchairs. Some fancy armchairs.
armchairs, not armoire chairs. I'm so fucking stupid.
You just said it fancier.
Casper and Hot Stuff. That'll be us next year.
I love Casper and Hot Stuff. That's a great costume idea. TM.
Cool.
Okay, Emmethy, I have a kind of like a little hodgepodge for you today, like a smorgasbord, if you will. I have some Halloween pranks and some Halloween crimes. And
Oh, a trick or a treat.
a trick or a treat. That's exactly right. Except it's sort of like a trick and a terrible homicide, but it's close enough.
Trick or really bad trick.
Or really trick or worse trick. So here we go. Now, we've talked about some of this before, and when you've done like history of, certain like carving jack-o'-lanterns and that kind of thing. Like there are a couple little nods to your past notes, but I figure since you and I barely remember what we've said, and I assume most people have moved on with their lives after they listen to an episode, I'm going to say them again for fun.
Whee!
So, as you can probably imagine, the relationship between Halloween and criminal mischief goes back for centuries. Halloween was actually traditionally believed to come from the ancient pre-Christian Irish fire festival Samhain, which we once said I said Samhain, or I don't know, we said it wrong at one time, and everyone kindly corrected us. Samhain, which now we know very well. It was believed that fairies and the dead could more easily access our world on Samhain and cause trouble for living humans. Sort of like the veil is thinner at that time. This belief persisted after the Christianization of Ireland, and there were stories about the puka coming to collect your leftover harvest, shape-shifting fairies sneaking into your barn, shape-shifted as rabbits to steal your cow's milk. Unless you bless the door with holy water, then they can't come in.
Oh.
It's just, there's a lot to remember. And, people celebrated Halloween, but it was also like you had to be very cautious around Halloween. You had to be on your toes. You had to look for mischief from people and from not people. Creatures,
all walks
magical
of
creatures.
this life and other lives.
And the
Yeah.
other life. Yeah. In more recent centuries, though, Halloween became a night for playing games at home to predict how your year would go. Like, I don't know if you remember covering this, but some of those young girls
do.
would play like games to figure out who they would marry and all that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Was it like
Which is-
bobbing for apples and like
Yes.
each apple was a different
Yes.
guy or something? What a nightmare.
It was something, yeah, you'd write the name on a piece of paper. I don't know, some ridiculous game. But you could also predict how your year would go. Like, would you get married? Would you emigrate? Would you, I feel like nowadays that's not really as relevant, but back then in
Maybe to
Ireland,
some,
would you
I don't know.
emigrate? Yeah, maybe. Would you become rich? And it also became tradition, which I like, to give gifts to your less fortunate neighbors who would come collecting alms. They would come to your door.
Mhm.
So all the while, people remembered the old stories of Samhain and kept an eye out for wandering spirits and any trouble that might come their way. And eventually, as part of almsgiving, people would start wearing masks and costumes as like just a way to entertain as they walked door to door, seeking like little handouts, like little gifts.
Yeah.
And children, especially boys, would dress up and go to houses in disguise to perform tricks and sing songs in exchange for cakes and other treats. And I feel like you've covered that, where they would go sing a song and you'd have to like guess what they are.
It was like
and-
essentially Christmas caroling, but like
Yes!
a different taste of it, a different flavor.
Bring back Halloween caroling, okay? Let's
I love
do it.
that. Can you imagine just knocking on your? They would call the police if they would have to. If you knocked on someone's door and started singing "Love Potion Number 9,"
He did the mash.
Yeah.
He did the monster. Yeah.
they'd
I
be
love
like
it.
5150 immediately. Like
I would be the only one to open the door and be delighted, but I think everyone else might be upset.
if I saw that
well.
through a peephole, I would be like, I am
the
locking this
blinds.
door, never opening
Kids,
ever.
hide under your bed.
Oh my god.
Others would paint their faces to look as strange as possible, and children in Scotland engaged in something called guising, like Guising, which is a tradition of dressing up to blend in with the spirits who are out and about, which I love that idea that like you're out and about with the fairies and other spirits.
And I feel like that's not even, I mean, I see how quickly it can be diluted into like a fun kid thing, but also like the meaning behind it is actually like
Yeah.
so beautiful of like, oh,
I
we're
really
all
like that too.
amongst each other.
Yeah, like we all mix together. You can't tell us apart. I really like that as well. Once several countries made it tradition for kids to hit the town in masks after dark, we had to worry less about shape-shifting fairies and more about children on the loose and running from house to house. So, the priorities shifted a little bit, understandably. Now, here is a little recap on some Halloween crimes that you covered last year, Em, as far as Halloween traditions go. In 18th century Ireland, kids began going out on Halloween to steal cabbages from
Aha.
neighbors' gardens. This is one of
forgot
my
about this.
favorite fun facts. And they would knock on the door shouting Halloween night. And when someone opened the door, they would chuck the cabbage into the house and just
I
run
totally forgot.
away,
You
which
know,
is my dream prank to do to somebody.
But not to have done to you because that's a baseball coming at you. That's a
I
bowling
could
ball.
I can make some sauerkraut out of it. When kids hand you cabbages, make
This
some
is why
sauerkraut.
my imagery of you as a child in your German household on Halloween, because your mother would totally be like, I'm just going to make some sauerkraut out of this.
Oh, for
But, like,
sure.
I feel like I want to know the size of these cabbages. Like, are they just still Brussels sprouts or are they fucking cabbages?
I'm picturing like these guys, like these really weighty ones, that are like, I don't know, 8 inches big and they're really hefty. And you
I
could
don't
you could palm it and just chuck it.
See, I don't even know which would be worse because if like the smaller they are, the more like of a projectile they are. But like if it's
True.
like you get pelted with Brussels sprouts and it feels like little rocks. But if it's
Oh,
one big
true.
thing, can you dodge it? Like, are there kickball rules here? Where like,
Well, I
or
also wonder.
can you catch it? Can you throw it back?
And one annoying thing would be if you throw it hard enough, a cabbage, I imagine, would kind of create
wouldn't
a,
be
a
eatable.
mess. It would be
Ugh.
it would be a little explosion, projectile of mini cabbage.
Also, what
I
if
don't
you
know.
have pets? Can they eat raw cabbage? Like, what if it's a mess? You have to be ready with the dustpan if you have pets.
I imagine they can probably eat cabbage because they eat broccoli, but Gio would not go near a cabbage unless it was covered in a dead animal or something.
What if
equally
you're not
disgusting.
home that night? What if you're not home that night and someone leaves an old cabbage on your doorstep and now you have rotting cabbage stink on your
Stinky.
house?
That smells bad.
That's worse than getting egged. You smell like a like a butt. You smell like a butt.
You smell like a butt. And is there any way around it? No. Sorry.
No. Only the grossest smelling foods that rot are the things that people are leaving on people's property.
Eggs and cabbages are like very bad smelling, and broccoli, which
Ooh.
could also be a fun addition. So yeah, you'd throw a cabbage into the house. Delightful. I'm sure everyone was making sauerkraut that night.
They had a very fancy lamp on the table next to the door, and now it's shattered.
Now you'd be in trouble. Oh boy. Yeah, so this practice came to the US briefly, and it was at one point such a problem in Massachusetts that Halloween, October 31st, was briefly known as Cabbage Night instead of Halloween. I mean, that is a delight to me.
Wait, what was regionally, where was it called?
Massachusetts.
Okay. Because I've taken the dialect quiz, and I've always seen that as an option, and I'm like, where the fuck do they say that?
Where we both lived. If I had known that. Remember I had a Halloween party in Boston that you came to?
We literally lived across the street. If I knew about Cabbage Night, I would have chopped a cabbage right into your fucking face.
I would never have gotten a fucking security deposit back from that apartment. Oh, boy. So eventually, toilet paper became the cheaper and probably easier to access alternative to throwing a literal cabbage into people's homes. So on top of toilet paper, kids started vandalizing churches with molasses, painting entire houses black in the night, committing arson, throwing flour at random passersby, and setting off literal pipe bombs in public places or private properties. So one Halloween flower attack, for example, involved a group of 200 boys. Like, this is how out of hand things got. Then in 1930, some kids in California greased so many streetcar rails that special crews had to respond in Oakland because the cars were skidding off the tracks. So now this is becoming like a public emergency and also like threatening people's lives. So people were very frenzied about trying to figure out what to do about Halloween. And some people were even shooting at children who trespassed on their properties or even just around Halloween who were near their property to try and scare them off. In 1930, one city was so desperate to curb youth crime and endangerment that the police considered handing over temporary police badges to as many as, this is like not a joke, as many as 500 bad boys, quote unquote, who were supposed to use their powers for good. Like a catch me if you can situation. I don't know. Like they knew how to try and curb the bad. Like they joined forces with the police, and so
like
they would
give them a title or give them power, and maybe they'll
like a special clearance and some power, and then they can tattle on their compatriots to the police. This just reminds me of like a prefect in Harry Potter is all I could think about, like Percy the prefect who just tattling on everybody, you know.
It's like we'll turn all the bad kids into vigilantes.
Great idea. We'll give them police badges. Okay, that seems like it's gonna work.
It's like,
great
have
for
we
you.
never heard of like what's it, the Milgram or the Stanford the experiment where they let people pretend to be cops and then they like got all fucking abusive, like
prisoners and jailers, and then it got so out of hand. Yeah, that's great point. Great point. Have you also ever heard of Lord of the Flies, aka Beelzebub? Because giving kids like the power to reign over their environment does not usually end well.
Oh my god.
Anyway, during World War II, things got a little more heated because pranks like letting air out of tires or putting soap on the windows was considered treason or sabotage because people were using valuable. Yeah, because it was the war, and so people were using valuable resources like soap and grease, which was like trying to be limited, you know, for personal use to be sent for the war effort. And so laws were actually passed criminalizing many Halloween pranks.
Okay. That's why eggs came into play, I think.
They were
like, we don't have any soap.
What are you going to do with my eggs?
It's like, I got a chicken out back. I know how to use it.
You can't stop me. In 1940, a man wrote to a newspaper columnist advocating for Halloween to be permanently banned. And in response, a columnist named Elsie Robinson wrote, The only cure I know, friend, is that of substitution. Let these worrying mothers get together and see that the young folk have their fun at home and be ghosts and witches, black cats, devils, or any wild thing that suits their eerie fancy.
Good
So
for her.
essentially, yeah. So essentially, she was onto something, which is don't cancel Halloween, just like change gears, like shift
Mhm.
it so that we're keeping kids out of trouble. And so that's why in the 1950s, Halloween underwent a major rebrand. Okay. They revamped this whole situation.
I love it. Like, who the hell
And
is in charge of this rebrand?
I hope it's Elsie Robinson because she was like on
Onto
it
something.
from early on. Yeah. So trick-or-treating in the 50s became a beloved tradition. It was featured in media like the Peanuts comics, and so suddenly kids were wanting to trick-or-treat through the neighborhood in a much safer way than running around like hooligans throwing, I don't know, cabbages in people's windows. So people figured out that passing out candy mostly kept kids out of trouble and close to home, and it was basically bribery. Like if you stay home and walk through your neighborhood, you'll get a shit ton of candy if you come home at a reasonable hour.
Mhm.
Um, Legal action, criminalizing, none of that worked. So candy, just bribery with candy is what worked. I'm telling you, Elsie knew it. But thousands of years of folklore and tradition does not die away easily. So many people were determined to keep the spirit of mischief alive on Halloween. However, unfortunately, some Halloween pranks in the US continue to go terribly wrong and have become full-blown crimes, even homicides.
Hmm.
I have some examples. And they're upsetting because I couldn't bring a story to you today without absolutely bumming you out, even though it
Thank
is
God.
Halloween. So, on October 31st, 1998, a group of teenagers threw eggs at a car, which is a standard Halloween attack.
Mhm.
The driver was 21-year-old Carl Jackson, and he was a computer programmer from the Bronx, and he had spent the evening at a children's Halloween party with his girlfriend and her 9-year-old son, Clyde. The couple were in the car on their way to drop 9-year-old Clyde off with a babysitter so they could go to another Halloween party when the eggs hit Carl's car just after 11 p.m. Carl was known as a quiet person, but he was very, very upset by the eggs that had hit his car, and so he got out of his car to scold the teenagers, and then he got back in the car to drive away. But he had pissed off these teenage egg throwers, and they were not
Ugh.
done with Carl. After he sat back down in the passenger seat, one of them pulled a gun and shot him through the window.
Oh my God.
The bullet hit Carl in the temple and killed him.
Oh my God. And then a little kid and his girlfriend watched it happen?
A little kid and his mom, the kid's mom, yeah, his girlfriend, watched it all happen. And I mean, just very shocking and tragic. And the kid who shot him, 17-year-old Curtis Sterling, was convicted of the murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. And Carl's friends and loved ones were so shocked by this event that they could not believe it happened. His mother told the New York Times, "We were just devastated. We never thought that anyone from our family would be murdered, especially on a holiday for something so stupid." And she
Mhm.
said it took her family several years to even talk about it because they were so stricken by shock and grief.
Sure.
And according to a 2010 article, Carl's mother sent a Halloween card to Curtis every year in prison that said, "I'm glad you're still in there."
Oh,
Ugh.
do what
It's
you gotta do,
getting-
girl, but
Getting
damn.
dark.
Oof.
Tragically, this is where this part, I don't know, it's just somehow upsetting in a weird way that I didn't expect. So Carl apparently used to avoid Halloween festivities growing up because he was so scared of Halloween. I know.
Ooh,
Isn't that eerie?
that's eerie.
Yeah, it really freaks me out. And he said
Ugh.
they scared him, but he wanted his girlfriend's son to have fun, so he agreed to take him to this Halloween party, even though he did not like to leave the house on Halloween most years. And even as a teenager and a kid, he was scared of Halloween, which
Jeez.
is just so dark. It's just like adds such a heavy element to this, like an eerie
And like
eerie
now
feeling.
by accident has only perpetuated it for another
Yes.
generation with that kid
And
who's
for
never
that
gonna want to
child.
leave.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, ooh, it gives me goose cam. So Carl's father even said, a young life was snuffed out over nothing, but that's what Halloween has gotten into. He never used to go out on Halloween. He always said it was too dangerous, even as a teenager, but this year he wanted to take the child out. Makes me sad. And historically, this is worth noting, marginalized minorities, of course, have been at higher risk of danger on Halloween. And this goes all the way back to the cabbage throwing days, because children often targeted neighbors that they thought were bad-tempered or different. I mean, it's like you said, like the old spooky house on the hill that might be the witch of the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like there's this
Yeah.
kind of like a Boo Radley vibe, like, oh, we never see that guy, so let's throw cabbages at him, even though maybe he's disabled or just likes
or
to be
fucking
alone,
scared to leave the house on
or
Halloween.
scared to leave the house on Halloween, precisely. And so, you know, this tended to be a pattern that people who were different got targeted. And it's similar to, you know, cranky elderly women who were unmarried became targets of witch hunts. It's people who, even that same descriptor, became the witch in the neighborhood, or, you know, the scary guy on the corner who you make up, you know, urban legends about. Likewise, people in the anti-Halloween camp have taken measures to ban festivities that could lead to troubling and dangerous biases. Biases? Biases. Cities across the U.S. have started passing laws banning teenagers from trick-or-treating, period. So, like, if you're over a certain age, you are not to participate in trick-or-treating. And this doesn't make sense on a few levels. First off, it seems to be a bad move because historically trick-or-treating is the only thing keeping teens out of trouble. So it's like, if you can't trick-or-treat as a teenager, you're going to go do something else, like a party or drink or throw a cabbage at someone. So maybe don't cancel trick-or-treating for teenagers. And in Belleville, Illinois, children older than 12 are not allowed to wear masks with their costumes, so they cannot cover their face. And kids past 8th grade cannot appear on the streets, highways, public homes, private homes, or public places in the city to make trick-or-treat visitations. Over than 12. That seems really young to me. I mean, maybe
I would have
not.
thought like by driving age or high school.
Yeah, 16 maybe, I feel like, but 12 seems young.
12 is
what do
like,
I know?
also 12 is awkward because it's already that age where like you still want to go trick-or-treating, but everyone else is kind of growing out of it. And
Acting
so like
cool. Yeah.
you already like are feeling a little shame about it. And now it's like, no. But maybe it's helpful because now you don't have to feel shame. It's like, oh, well, I can't. You know?
I'm not allowed. But 12 seems so little to me, but maybe I'm 12
just feels little to me too.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know, but you made a really good point. And there are also some other questionable, iffy points about this, because until a 2019, that's pretty damn recent, 2019 revision of the law, children older than 12 caught trick-or-treating in Chesapeake, Virginia could face 6 months in prison if
That's
you were
crazy.
older than 12. So
imagine if your 12th birthday was the day before Halloween. What if your 12th birthday was Halloween?
Then you're a Scorpio and you're just trying to create a chaotic situation.
Like, are you going to go to jail for 6 months if you were
know.
11 yesterday?
It's like insane. It really doesn't make any sense. And they have since taken this jail time penalty off the table. So this is not
Good. Jesus Christ.
This is no longer a risk.
Like, truly imagine being in juvie. It's like, what are you in for? Trick-or-treating.
I literally thought when you first said imagine your 12th birthday, I thought you meant like imagine if your 12th birthday was behind bars and you had to have visitation from your friends. And then
it fucking happened apparently in Chesapeake, Virginia. So.
So they changed the jail time threat, thankfully, and they also changed the age limit to 14. So slightly better. And critics of these laws say they're unfair for everyone, but especially in special cases, which I always thought was kind of troubling part of this, is that disabled teenagers with unstable home lives who maybe didn't get the chance to trick-or-treat when they were younger, or, you know, I've experienced this in some of the neighborhoods I've lived in where there are families who, you know, go door to door, sort of similar to the tradition, and are seeking food, you know what I mean? Like candy, sure, but like maybe they don't have access to that in their home life. And so this is kind of targeting them as well. And critics also worry, which I found very interesting, about non-white children being criminalized and targeted even when they are within the legal age to participate. And
I was going to say.
Yeah, because when you're 12, it's sort of like some people look much older, some people look younger, some people have boobs, some don't. You know, puberty hits differently on
Well,
different
even
people.
even then, not even physically, but just to be a black person, you are adultified
Right?
so early, and like,
Exactly.
you know, if there was a 12-year-old who did something wrong, all of a sudden they're not like a
Mm-hmm.
kid in the eyes of the news and society. So I mean, there's
Exactly.
if you're 11 and you're like a black kid who wants to go trick or treating, someone is going to have already decided for you that you're actually much older than
Like
11. And
almost assessed the situation. And you were absolutely correct because according to the American Psychology Association, research conducted on 176 police officers who were mostly white males and 264 undergraduate students, mostly white females, revealed that black boys as young as 10 may not be viewed in the same light of childhood innocence as their white peers, but are instead more likely to be mistaken as older, be perceived as guilty, and face police violence if accused of a crime. So
Mhm.
already subconsciously we're facing these biases. So it is a troubling thing to say, oh, we're just going to decide on an age like 12. And no one has a driver's license at 12 to prove how old they are. So it's
Right.
like all just very messy. In communities with trick or treat age laws, young black boys are at very high risk of dangerous bias. And of course, this same risk could extend to other racial minorities. And here's where I have another upsetting case for you.
Mhm.
Woohoo. This one is from October of 1992. A 16-year-old boy named Yoshihiro Hattori was excited to celebrate American Halloween for the first time as an exchange student from Japan.
Uh-oh.
Yoshi was I know, it's already just so deeply upsetting. Yoshi was excited to experience a new culture and share his culture too. And before he left for his exchange year, he wrote in his journal, "Wherever I go, I wish I could make the country a second home country. I can make Japanese cooking like tempura cutlet for host families and introduce the living way of Japanese." And he was beyond excited to spend some time in the United States. His host parents, Dr. Holly Haymaker and her husband, Dick Haymaker, were thrilled to host Yoshi in their Baton Rouge, Louisiana home. In Japan, Yoshi was a dedicated rugby player, and in Louisiana, he started taking jazz dance lessons. He
Hmm.
really fit right in. Everyone at his new school loved him. He was extroverted. He was a free spirit. His host father, Dick, said he was a really, really extraordinary guy. He was life. He moved through space like a dancer. He also made fast friends with the Haymakers' 16-year-old son, Webb. In October, they were invited to a Halloween party in another town, so the boys dressed up and set out on Saturday, October 17th. Yoshi was dressed as John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever.
Hmm.
It's like so upsetting. Webb, the son, said, "Eventually we ended up on this street. We saw this house. It had Halloween decorations and it had 3 cars in the driveway, and the address was 10311, whereas we wanted to go to 10131. But I just saw the address and said, oh, this is it." The boys knocked on the door, but nobody answered. A woman opened a side door, looked at them for a second, and slammed the side door shut. Webb realized, oh, maybe we're in the wrong place, so they started to walk away. That's when 30-year-old Rodney Pierce opened the front door holding a revolver.
Why? Why?
Webb thinks that Yoshi might have mistaken the gun for a Halloween prop. Guns were so uncommon in Japan, it's possible Yoshi had never even seen one in person.
Hmm.
Rodney yelled freeze, but Yoshi didn't seem to understand. And you have to remember, English is not his first language. And he spoke
Right.
English, but, you know, he totally different culture, different expectations. And he just did not seem to understand. So he started walking back toward the house, smiling and greeting Rodney. He
Oh,
said, "We're here
God.
for the party. We're here for the party." Without another warning, Rodney shot Yoshi directly in the chest and slammed the door shut.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Unaware of Yoshi's condition after the ambulance took him away, Webb waited at the police station for his parents, who spoke to the police and told him that Yoshi had died. The first thing Webb said was, "His poor mother."
Hmm.
Yoshi's parents flew to the United States while the Haymakers were racked with guilt for letting them go to this party, for feeling like they had failed him. Holly dreaded meeting Yoshi's parents, who had trusted her to keep their son
Sure.
safe. Yeah, it must have been. That's just a daunting nightmare situation. When they met, the first thing Yoshi's mom asked was, "How is Webb?"
Oh God.
So sweet. Initially, Rodney was off the hook because he claimed he was defending his property from trespassers, aka
Shut the fuck
two
up.
children on Halloween. But international outcry led to his indictment for manslaughter. So the woman who had opened that first door that night turned out to be Rodney's wife. And after seeing the boys who were simply standing at the door knocking, she told Rodney to get the gun.
Which is wild because, like, even if he didn't say we're here for the party or anything later, they could have just been fucking trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating?
So, like,
It's so
you just
weird.
It's Halloween night and children in costume came to
Why
your
are you
door.
shooting? It's just like so extreme like it's bizarre. I wonder.
it's
Well,
just
I
like-
guess the party was October 17th, so maybe it's like, oh, it was pre-Halloween, so they wouldn't be trick-or-treating.
I guess if I saw anyone in costume at all in October,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm also not someone who thinks, "Oh, let me go shoot someone real quick without any context."
someone's
you
on
know?
my sidewalk. Yeah, so and it's hard to believe because they had Halloween decorations up. It's not like they forgot
Right.
what season it was. It's bizarre. It's just like a
So no
horrific
trick-or-treater is
response.
safe. It's like it's just
No,
you could
apparently
just
not.
get shot on a front stoop.
Especially if you don't look like a white kid from Louisiana, I guess.
Mhm.
So Rodney claims he shot Yoshi out of fear because of his, quote, unusual way of moving.
What the fuck does that mean?
Seems like maybe not. But Webb said Yoshi had a bounce to his step because he was so excited for the party. That was the only thing that may have made him walk differently, which is
God.
just even worse. Rodney's defense team said Rodney was just one of your neighbors who simply acted in self-defense. After just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury acquitted Rodney of all charges.
Shut
And
the
he
fuck
was
up.
free to go.
Sick.
The tragedy, of course, there's, somewhat of a silver lining in the aftermath of this tragedy because the Haymakers and the Hattoris were bonded together for life. From Japan and the United States, they have both families have dedicated decades to fighting for gun reform in the U.S. They met with President Clinton, participated in marches, and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the cause. In a civil suit against Rodney and his home insurance company, Yoshi's parents were awarded $100,000, which they then used to fund more gun control campaigns. The Haymakers gave $500,000 to Dick's alma mater, Carleton College, to create the Yoshihiro Hattori Memorial Fund, which helps cover costs for students studying abroad from Japan, which I think is really beautiful. The family's activism is considered to have played a huge role in helping pass the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act shortly after Yoshi's death, which mandates background checks on gun buyers and a 5-day waiting period on all purchases. In recent years, the Hattoris returned to the U.S. to speak to survivors of the Parkland shooting and participate in the March for Our Lives in March of 2018. Since Halloween's earliest days in the U.S., this has been a fraught time of year for those who are pro-Halloween and anti-Halloween. It's just very high tension, and I feel like that's something we don't necessarily know about in our normal day-to-day, like fall girly, basic bitch experience, at least speaking for me, for myself. Children have been stabbed, shot, choked by adults in retaliation for throwing an egg at a house or a car, for TPing houses. There's this sometimes violent outrage that comes out from adults who feel like they're being threatened. And it's ended in a lot of physical violence.
Sure.
But on the other side, victims of these pranks have also sustained critical injuries from, say an egg being thrown at your windshield and you crash your car, or
Right.
arson, or any of these so-called pranks that can also lead to fatalities. According to a 2010 New York Times article, quote, since 1984, at least 24 people have been seriously wounded or killed in stabbings, shootings, beatings, or accidents sparked by egg-throwing confrontations around
Wow.
Halloween. Just the egg throwing has led to at least 24 people who have been seriously wounded or killed. So,
and that's
be
just
careful.
Halloween too, because
that's just on Halloween.
365 days of eggs on a car, But Halloween alone that's too much. That's wild.
That's very, very, very alarming to me. And, it's unfortunate because, especially nowadays, we consider Halloween a fun, positive, uh creepy time, right? Like, especially millennials, I feel like we've really embraced Halloween as, you know, a special time. But of course, there is still that reality that you have to be cautious and, you know, be careful, folks. I get the fun of a prank, but just be careful out there because you never know if the person you're pranking is gonna overreact or if you're gonna accidentally cause some harm that you didn't mean to. So it's a best to avoid, I would say, playing pranks on strangers who can react unpredictably. Maybe don't confront pranksters just for your own safety. You know, it can end very badly. But of course, tragic cases like Yoshi's show that even innocent people with good intentions who've done no pranking at all can end up victims of unpredictable violence. And that is the story of Halloween pranks and worse pranks.
If anything, it was more just like a giant PSA for like.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. A giant PSA.
Well, you forgot about all the needles and meth in our candy or whatever it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I feel like they don't say that anymore the way they used to
like
in the
a
90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was like a 90s trend, I think.
It was like a huge thing. Like, I feel like we talk about it now as a joke, but I don't know about you, but in my area, people were actually so scared of that. Like, so scared that drug dealers were coming in and putting needles in chocolate. And it's like,
I think my mom was like, that's ridiculous. Who is going to give away their heroin? You're fine. So I was like, okay. So we never really believed it. But
I think it was also during like there was that one big year of like anthrax scares. So that was pretty valid. I mean, there was like people finding anthrax in their like mailboxes and shit. So like not like it was like, you know, a million people, but there were cases of it, and so I think that was part of the fear of like you can't even touch your candy. And
you were living closer to had more connections to DC, which I feel like would have also a little bit of, I don't know,
I feel like
added element.
The anthrax year was a big one for actually being scared to touch your candy, but then like if you're grabbing it from the neighbors next door, like you know exactly who provided you this candy. like they're going
you all
to jail.
shop for it at the same Walmart.
Yes. So, you know, I just remember like there being a year of paranoia. But I remember hearing the things about drugs, and both of my parents being partiers in their heyday, they were like, don't worry, that's not true.
Yes, mine too. Mine were like, I don't think your dumb friends at school know what they're talking about. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
Well, dang. Good one, Christine. Thank you for bringing back Cabbage Night, because that really escapes me.
That was, you know, our researcher, Saoirse, added that in and was like, you don't have to say this. I was like, are you kidding? We're talking about cabbages again, whether you like it or not, everybody.
I actually just cut up a cabbage 2 days ago.
You did not. They're fun to cut up, though. Isn't it weirdly satisfying because they're all like crinkly?
Well, also I love a crunch, and like but I don't like a crispy crunch. Like I don't like chip.
But also,
crunch.
You don't like nuts in your candy, which is why I like nuts in my candy, because it's a crunch. So that's very interesting.
But the crunch doesn't bother me. The taste, I don't want the taste of nuts in my chocolate.
Interesting. Okay.
I just like what are you adding? Like, just give me, I want chocolate. I didn't come here for fucking nuts, you know? If I wanted to do that, I'd buy a jar of almonds if I wanted nuts so damn bad, but I want chocolate. It's Halloween.
Okay. I've heard you, and I
loud
understand.
and clear.
Loud and clear.
Even with like Reese's, like I like it. I used to love it. I went through like a phase where I loved it, but like
I love it.
Maybe
I love
maybe
Reese's.
I'm just getting older, but like after like one or two, I like.
They're very rich.
Very sweet. Rich. Yeah. No, I cut up a cabbage.
I can eat 11 ring pops as evidenced by today's episode, but that's different.
I've had minimal sugar compared to Christine.
Em watched me drop a fucking ring pop. Well, I didn't know you were watching, but I dropped a ring pop and then I
there
picked
was
it up
nothing
and
else
like,
to look at. It was all you.
I was like, she's gonna put that in her mouth, and indeed,
no,
I did.
Everyone listened to what I had to watch, because Christine was taking her ring pops and then she was ring pops. I'm not kidding. She had like 10 on her hands, and then she kept doing the thing that like babies do when their hands are sticky, and she was like doing like the full arm stretch to be able to touch her eye and shit. And
Leona goes, help. Oh,
Yeah.
help. So that's kind of what I was doing. Yeah.
well, that's what Christy was doing. But then like one of them fell. Although she had 9 others, this was the one she wanted, and she kept putting it in her mouth, and then I would see her look at it after it's been dropped and like pull like a hair or something off of it and put it right back in her mouth, and then a couple seconds later she'd pull it out again. Clearly didn't succeed the first time and is now investigating to pull something off of it. And I'm like, you can just, it was like 5 cents. It was like a nickel. It's the last thing on earth that still costs a nickel. Like you can just throw it away and use the other 9.
Okay.
It's fine.
Eva was on my side. She said, sometimes you just want that particular flavor.
They all looked the same. Were they all different flavors?
They were no.
Do you have a favorite ring pop flavor?
They were 2 different flavors. And this one was a blue raspberry, and I really wanted to eat the blue raspberry. And the other ones were purple grape.
You know what I
want grape.
You know what I fucking love, Christine? You know what I love?
Tell me.
I need you to hear this. When they had those ring pops that were the twisted flavors,
Oh.
where they were tie-dye. Oh, tie-dye.
Delightful. Those are
Tie-dye.
good. These are
You gotta be kidding me. The
What is
classics.
Halloween. Includes tongue painters. I
Well,
love that they're trying to market it as like, oh, we did that on purpose. Like, yeah,
right. It's just food dye, girl, but thanks.
It's literally red 40, but thank you for pretending like you did it intentionally.
No, those tie-dye ones really fucking sealed the deal for me, especially the blue and green one, but the red and orange one was pretty good
Those
too.
were good. I like those.
Ooh.
The swirlies.
Ooh.
The swirlies are tasty. Yep.
If I ever see one, I have to get it. I have to get it.
Have to.
All right. Well,
All right.
what now,
love you all.
Christine? Are
I
we
don't know.
off to do
Oh.
another after hours?
Yeah, and that's why I drink after hours. And actually, I have so what I'm thinking of when it's like my turn to do an after hours or bring something to the table, what I'm thinking is what I might do from now on is like a mini crime story, like something that's not enough.
Ooh.
Because I have one today that is a doozy that came up in my news headlines this morning, and I was like, oh, I have to tell Em about this. And then I realized I could tell you in the after hours about this bizarro crime. So like maybe weird crimes or like, you know, crimes that don't have enough information to have an episode. So I have one
You
for you today,
found
if
it-
that's okay.
It was in the news, you found it?
If it was in the news, yes.
Sounds like that's a newsy doozy.
You're such an idiot. I was like, why did you make me repeat that it was in the news? That's weird.
For the callback. Anyway.
Yeah, good job.
Okay. I'm excited for our newsy doozy. I can't wait to hear what the hell is going on. And
That's
why
we
drink.